now move to the next session, which is in many ways unique because it's an interface between industry and business. We have two eminent panelists, Mr. Anil Agarwal, who has flown in from London from the Conclave, very specifically, and Mr. Anand Sharma, the Commerce and Industry Minister of India. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Anand Sharma, Commerce and Industry Minister of India, and Mr. Anil Agarwal, the Metals King, Chairman of Vedanta Resources PLC. If everyone could settle down, we could set the session rolling. Success in business is about winning against the odds, which is the theme of the India Today Conclave. Our next speaker epitomizes this, even though he would be perfectly within his rights to complain that sometimes the odds seem just too many to qualify as fair competition. How would you describe a man who has gone from starting out as a scrap dealer, sifting metal from scrap, to building a $70 billion conglomerate? From a man who began in Patna and now operates out of London and oversees a global empire. Some call him the metals king. I would prefer to call him the metal nair, for his tough as nails approach to business and new challenges. The way Mr. Agarwal drove the acquisition of Care India should be a lesson in how to effect mergers and acquisitions. Vedanta has a place among the top 5 global diversified oil and gas, metals and mining groups, with operations in oil and gas, copper, aluminium, zinc, lead, iron ore, silver, and commercial power. His global metals empire was seeded with the disinvestment of Balco. And as luck would have it, the disinvestment minister of that time is also with us, Mr. Arun Shourie. Mr. Agarwal is known to favor privatization of natural resources, to have a government that supports business. And as a true poster child of the last decade in business, I now invite Mr. Anil Agarwal, Chairman of Vedanta, to tell us what else he thinks will get India to win the next decade. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Anil Agarwal.
I'm not an orator, and this is maybe my second time to be on the podium, but India today, and we need to be together to see how India can go forward. 2,300 years ago, Chanakya said, I come from Bihar, so I respect him a lot. 2,003 years back, Chanakya said, in absence of fruitful economic activity, both current prosperity and future growth are in danger. And somebody can predict 2,000 years back, that goes today. You know, 91, 92, when we are the product of Narasimha Rao government. We are the product, when nothing was going, we realized there was some opportunity for us. And we find all over the world, people who are coming to India to do some joint venture, to study what they can do. India is in a growth path, and everywhere they were saying, now India is opening up, let's go and invest. I had a small office, and everybody, the Chamber of Commerce, the association was saying, you have to meet these people, you have to meet this delegation. And we were really tired for about 7-8 days. And I recall this story, how interesting it was. I was doing copper business, that was my business, and I was only confined to copper and copper product. My secretary told me that there is somebody from New York want to see you. And I said, look, we have done enough meeting. He says, in the brass business. And I says, let's leave it. And he says, maybe for 5 minutes in the evening. And I says, okay, let them come at 5 o'clock in the evening. In the evening, I forget about it. My secretary says that the lady has come and she would like to see you for 5 minutes. And the lady entered my room. I couldn't believe it. Almost 6 feet tall, beautiful blonde girls coming into my room. And she says, I will take only 5 minutes. I say, the whole evening is yours. Whole evening is yours. Please come in. And she sat down and we started talking. And she was talking brass. In 5 minutes I realized we are two different, and I was seeing from my ear. She was talking the ladies' garment brass. And I was thinking the brass metals. And I says, I can enter into that business too, but at the moment I'm confined to brass and copper. A story I recall just a couple of months back. I don't want to name it. Somebody very important, the Crown Prince, came to Rajasthan. And when he drive, probably from Delhi or Jaipur, when he landed in Udaipur, he says, my back is cracked completely. Why don't you repair your road? You come and see in my country, I have a gold road. And it's just slick, just see our infrastructure. I said, look, where can we repair our road? You produce your oil at $5 and sell it to us at $110. All the blood and money goes to you. Nothing left for us to repair any road. So this is the condition we are today. Our energy security, 90% of our oil we import. We have the pool of oil. Today I've been told, and I can only understand the natural resources, and I'm going to talk about that. We in India, our corporate, our entrepreneur, what they have not given to whenever the government has trusted them. We have given the world's best top-class IT companies. Shiv Nadar is sitting here. We have given them the best of telecom company, the pharmaceutical, automobile, anywhere you talk about where we have worked and we have been trusted, we have given the best product and it has been recognized as a world class. It's a high time for us to look at our natural resources. It's a high time to look at our manufacturing. If I tell you some of the number, today India import bill is $500 billion. All this $500 billion, we have the capability in India to manufacture, to develop this product in our country, create at least 10 to 15 crores new employment. We have seen all over the world. I have seen last 10 years. I have seen the countries like Brazil, Mexico. They were nowhere near to us. They are almost 10 times bigger than us. You look at the green country. Look at the green country, Australia. Look at the green country, Canada. Look at the South Africa. Look at the Latin America. They all call themselves green country. They produce 10 times more than what natural resources we produce. Will you believe? In India, we produce oil at $4. We can produce our gold around $200. We import at $1,500. Iron ore, we have a capability to produce 600 million ton. We produce 100 million ton. And there's a hue and cry. We have the entrepreneurship. You have to decide which way you want to go. Whether you want to go Chinese, where all the companies run by the government, that's fine. We corporate will accept that. That all the companies, all the production will happen in the government sector. Or you want to go American way, whereby the corporates, the private sector, have the partnership and they take forward the company. It's a time to decide. We are in democratic country. American way is a democratic way, and that's how they have taken their country forward. Even if you look at oil we have almost from Assam to Kanyakumari is a spread. We need at least 20 more companies to come. The whole world is looking to invest in India. We entrepreneur in this country, with the company, Indian companies are capable tying up with the best of partner in abroad, bringing them here and create the value for the nation. I have lot which I have in the list. I know the time is constrained. I'm going to stop here and probably ask for the question and answer.
Thank you so much, Mr. Agarwal, on providing a perspective on how the global metals business runs and how you're a leader in that particular sphere. Our next speaker, Mr. Anand Sharma, Union Minister of Commerce and Industry and also Textiles, has been a prominent face of the UPA government for all the right reasons and for being able to buck the trend, if you will, in his own very special way. For one, he joined the Congress Party's student wing and rose quickly as a youth leader when he was actually in his youth. By all accounts, a hard act to follow, and became an MP for the first time when he was just 31. Mr. Sharma has built a formidable reputation for deftly negotiating his way through choppy waters with great aplomb. His success very recently at the WTO ministerial meeting in Bali is a case in point. When everything appeared to have failed, Mr. Sharma hammered through an agreement on food security to protect the rights of Indian farmers, which has been the sticking point between rich countries and the developing world for many years now. The Doha round of trade talks kicked back to life with perhaps its only significant agreement of note to date. That this was based on an Indian draft should draw a big round of applause. To speak, to speak from this vantage point, may I request the Honourable Minister to deliver his address on how India can win the next decade. Please welcome Mr. Anand Sharma.
My dear friend Arun Puri, Sandeep Bamzai, Anil Agarwal, other distinguished citizens of our great country present here, Arun Shourie, General J.J. Singh, Director CBI Ranjit, representatives of the India Today Group, academics, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. It's truly a privilege to be here in your midst today. I must compliment India Today Group, like always, for providing a platform for discussion and an opportunity for us, irrespective of which stream we come from, to share our experience, our thoughts, with a very enlightened audience, which is as concerned about India, its growth, its future, as we all are. We live in a great country of enormous promise and potential that we have to bear in mind. A civilizational country, but a very young nation state, considering our demographic profile, 1.2 billion people, 800 million young below the age of 35, 630 million below the age of 21. An aspirational India on the move, which has written its own essay. As the world has seen a paradigm shift, a rebalancing of the global economy, and also the evolving order and architecture, political, economic, and security architecture, which is definitely going to be different in the 21st century as compared to what it was before our own independence and the emergence of other nations as sovereign free nation states in Asia, Africa, South Americas. When we talk of present and when we talk of future, we must not lose sight of history, struggles, achievements, many proud accomplishments which our people have made, our investments in building great institutions, in human resources, in creating capacities which have delivered in this country and across the globe. This is a fact which is acknowledged, which has resonated across continents, particularly with regard to India's minds, who made a notable contribution when this country itself did not offer the opportunities that India or 21st century offers. There will always be different viewpoints as to what path should have been chosen and when. I also have my views as to where we should have taken some steps and decisions earlier and why we didn't take. But I'm very clear in my mind, irrespective of the setbacks, the ups and downs, which economies all over the world do experience. I know that in politics, if we say that there are strong headwinds and there are multiple factors contributing to that, it would be straight away referred to as an admission of failure. But if we go back to 1992 or 91, after the collapse of the Berlin Wall, when the two power blocs which dominated the world order since the 40s did not remain, they did not keep the world divided, and the world moved. That was the period when India connected. Yes, there is a reason. There was a need, there was also a vision. I was listening outside to Arun Shourie when he was speaking. The fact of the matter is that the leadership of India decided to step out and engage with the world, give our people confidence, and also the entrepreneurship to be unleashed. What we have seen is known to us, known to the world. We have lifted tens of millions of people out of the poverty net. We have invested in other economies, Indian corporates full of confidence, investing in Africa, South America, Europe, North America. Some of the biggest acquisitions and mergers made by the Indian entities. Anil Agarwal, sitting here, himself is a shining example of that Indian entrepreneurship. And there are many others. At the same time, we opened up because we realized that we live in a globalized world. This has to be borne in mind, interconnected and interdependent. Where we have reached, our national incomes have trebled. In the last 9 years, 130 million Indians have been brought out of the poverty net. When you look at where we were with roads, where we were with power generation, it's changing every year. And it's a national effort. The governments of the day put in place policies. But it's the people, it's our administration, civil service, and also the citizens, the institutions, which invest a lot in ensuring implementation, which can bring about the transformation that this country needs. It's universal knowledge where we were. We were growing consistently, whatever claims may be made, at over 9% for almost 4 years. But there cannot be any denial, if we have to be intellectually honest, that there was a financial crisis in the world which imploded from the rich countries, where the institutions got tested and many collapsed. And what followed was the economic crisis, which was perhaps the worst the world has known since the Depression, because it came riding on top of the financial crisis. The severity is known. Governments have intervened. Policymakers have taken decisions. We ourselves came out with 3 stimulus packages to re-energize growth, and it did happen. In fact, the emerging economies, as we are referred to, whether China, India, Brazil, Indonesia, we became the driving engines of global economic recovery post-2008-9. India itself went back to 8.5%. But we cannot be in a world which is as interconnected intensely as we know, be unaffected. There was a theory of decoupling at that time, that the emerging economies are not affected, and I always said no. Adversity of impact will be there. It will differ from continent to continent and nations to nations, depending what your regulatory framework is, how your economy is, what your growth pattern is. I feel for the next decade, as the question has been put to us, India must go back to high growth. India cannot afford but to recapture and reach 8 to 9% growth at least. We know we are capable of doing that. I can give you details later. We are over the bend. We are moving in the right direction. But for this to happen, we have to bear few things in mind. First is, in our country, as diverse as we are, pluralistic as we are, the level of disparities and the aspirations and dreams of our people, we must ensure that India's economic growth is inclusive, it has a human face. There are many who say that no, first growth, I feel there has to be balance, which is very important. Trickle-down effect theory has been there for the rich countries, not for us. We have to ensure that governments always have a social security agenda so that those who are left behind are also taken in the embrace of the economic growth. They feel, as citizens of the Republic, participants and beneficiaries as those who are more privileged. For us to achieve this, manufacturing must grow at double digit. The share of manufacturing in India's GDP has been stagnating at 16%. It's not that manufacturing has not grown, it has. But the fact is that GDP has also grown. We are moving close to becoming a $2 trillion economy. We would have become, but for the setbacks, which I did refer to. But at the same time, how do we achieve that kind of manufacturing growth? When you look at comparable economies, it's minimum 26% to 34%. Now, at a time when two words had become a cliche, and people without connecting or going deeper into it did refer to that, it became a trend and a fashion. There's a virus which originated from India, we did not import, the policy paralysis. But the fact of the matter is there was no policy paralysis. India came out with its national manufacturing policy on 25th of October 2011 with the objective to raise the share of manufacturing from 16 to 25, 26% in one decade and to create 100 million skilled jobs. I must share something with you. It was late December 2009 when I called the first meeting, and I called people, men and women, who understood these matters better than me. I said, why India is where it is when it comes to manufacturing, and what will be the future of this country, considering the fact that every year 15 million young Indians join the workforce, and in 10 years 150 million young Indians. There's a social dimension. This country would not remain socially stable or become ungovernable unless and until you create those jobs. And those jobs cannot come but for manufacturing, which has a multiplier effect. Now, this manufacturing policy, how are we going to achieve what I said? This I want to share with you. The principal instrument are the national investment and manufacturing zones. Those are standalone integrated industrial cities of the future, connected to the other thing which we need, the planned urbanization, which India should have, considering again that in 15 years, 600 million young Indians will be living in urban India. That's why you have to plan and build cities of the future, and that urbanization becomes an imperative, not an option. At the same time, we have to ensure that services grow at 8 to 9% and agriculture continues to grow between 4 and 5%. That is how India is going to achieve that. Not by words, but by action, but by policies, but by decisions. And decisions, when they have to be made, must be made. We cannot allow an environment to sustain, and I say with all respect, which makes political decision-making difficult, which questions the intent behind every policy. Every signature is called into question. We have a system. We are a rule-based, rule-governed democracy, a constitutional democracy. We must believe in our people, in our institutions. We have regulatory frameworks. We have transparency and accountability. That is very much there as part of India, in which we live. Today's citizen is far more empowered than my generation when we were born. I was born 6 years after India's independence. Now, referring to the national manufacturing policy, once we took the decision we also looked at how to improve the ecosystem and improve also our image as a country where people are comfortable to invest in and to do business. There's the comfort or ease of doing business, where we were ranking as low as 134 in the World Bank report 3 years ago. Through the National Manufacturing Policy for this National Investment Manufacturing Zones, effectively a single window approval mechanism has already been put in place. I want to share for those who are not aware. These industrial cities, 16 to be precise, which stand notified, 8 coming along the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, 3 we have already launched. I launched one in Lucknow, along with Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav. That is the integrated industrial city of Greater Noida, Dadri region, this Sunday. The next day we launched the Shendra-Bidkin integrated industrial city in the state of Maharashtra. Prior to that, we had launched one, the knowledge city, the Vikram Udyog Puri in Ujjain. These 16 cities, the smallest being 52 square kilometer and the largest 920 square kilometer. This all has been happening in India. We are building new port cities and metropolis. Now you have to connect to this if we are talking of where India should be going in the next decade. This is all put in place. And when I said 8 along the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, I must also refer that 2 additional ones we have added. These are dedicated to electronic hardware, because we realized that our imports of electronic hardware, in the absence of our own capacities of semiconductor and wafer fabrication, will take the imports in this sector alone to $200 billion plus, more than our oil imports in the next few years. So there is an ITIR, 38 square kilometer near Bangalore. That's the electronic city of the future. It has been given the status of National Investment and Manufacturing Zone, though it was short of the mandated area requirement of 50 square kilometer. And the second one is in Hyderabad, which is much bigger. So these 18 cities, and the industrial corridor, I refer to one, there are 3 more. One is under implementation. Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, ladies and gentlemen, has been accepted by the World Bank as the most innovative infrastructure project ever conceived, and the second most innovative and largest ever to be implemented in the world. Last month, the cabinet cleared the Amritsar-Kolkata Industrial Corridor. The Southern Corridor, Industrial Corridor from Chennai to Bengaluru, which is being extended now from Tumkur to Chitradurga, stands approved. Work is on. Japan is a major partner, technology and equity partner for the 2 corridors. Early last year, we had negotiations before Prime Minister Cameron's visit. This was with regard to the 4th corridor, the spine as I call it, Bangalore-Mumbai Economic Corridor, where UK has come in as a partner. So this is already happening. What we need, therefore, is to take it forward to ensure continuity and stability. Everybody is talking of stability. Stability is not only of governments. I can say very proudly that we have provided a stable government for the last 10 years. This is a fact which cannot be denied. We were not paralyzed in our decision making, but yes, Parliament did get paralyzed. And therefore, for anyone, irrespective of where we are coming from, to ensure stability and continuity is important. Equally and imperative it is to have predictability and stability of a policy regime, particularly with regard to foreign direct investment. We have remained the first 3 of the investment destinations, the most attractive throughout this period. In the last 4 years, and I have had the privilege of my present responsibilities, we have attracted $176 billion of investments. Since 2000, the total FDI coming into India is $303 billion. I'm not counting the ongoing year. We'll finish this UPA 2 5-year anywhere between $210 and $220 billion. Now, these are numbers which speak for themselves. But we've also had threats of policy reversals, which should not happen. responsible politics, responsible decision-making will guide India's destiny. If we allow an environment to continue where decisions to be taken or decisions taken, the implementation of the same gets trapped in partisan political agendas, then India will not be able to accelerate the growth momentum which we need to generate wealth, to redistribute and reinvest in this country's future. And there are many steps to be taken which may be discussed during this conclave, from governance reforms to judicial reforms, from administrative reforms to electoral reforms. There are many things on the agenda which have to happen. There are many of these reforms, the legislation lapsed in Parliament because Parliament did not pass or debate the same for 2 years, 3 years. This should not be India's future. I'll also very briefly touch on 2 things before I conclude. One are the need of labor reforms, which is very high on the agenda, because we need to take a view on that. Second are the skills. Third, innovation. And I may say that whether we have applied our mind to all these, the answer is in a very strong yes. And to conclude, I would like to tell you that what we have done or what we propose to do, what I refer to, is being done truly in a federal spirit, a partnership between the Government of India and the state governments. We have resolved all issues. Effectively, single window approval mechanisms have been put in place under the National Manufacturing Policy, is there for anyone to see. What Sandeep Bamzai referred to, he was very generous in his words. We have remained externally engaged by entering into meaningful economic agreements, partnership agreements, and also being constructively engaged, which has been acknowledged, to ensure the first agreement in the WTO ever since the establishment of the WTO in 1995, by putting together a big coalition of the developing countries. So if you look at the list, it is a long one. I can assure you, I believe in this country and its people. I've had the privilege of being a political activist for most of my life, from my student days. I am an eternal optimist. Believe in yourselves, believe in India. This country can only go in one direction, that's forward, and let's be proud of what we are. Thank you.
Mr. Sharma spoke about manufacturing and how its aggregation needs to increase and ramp up significantly as we meet the demands of mass migration to urban agglomerates almost every day. Time overruns are an issue, but we'll still take a few questions. If the questions are short, then we'll get answers from the panelists. Please keep your questions short.
We have lots of iron ore reserves, and we extract iron ore, and we export it to countries like Japan. We do not make any value addition. We can convert these iron ores into a steel and export, and then the revenues which we will earn in foreign exchange would be much higher. But
Sir, excuse me, if you could just ask the question, then we'll get more of Mr. Sharma and Mr. Agarwal.
So I asked Mr. Sharma, what is this tearing hurry to earn some paltry foreign exchange and export iron ores as such without value addition?
I am amused at your question. If the same question is put to the political leaders and decision makers in other countries from whom we import commodities and materials. Mr. Anil Agarwal sitting here may not agree with you. India has the third largest, or one of the largest iron ore reserves of the world. The problem is that we have not been mining enough. Mining itself is an industry. When you look at your steel capacities, including the pelletization capacities, which the government has been fully supporting through policy measures, not reached even 92 million tons. And the unutilized capacity. The fact is that India was mining, I stand to correct the earlier number, about 230 million tons of iron ore, and we were exporting in addition, in excess of 115. Domestic consumption or the capacity of the domestic industry was only to consume about 95 to 100 million. Now it is increasing. Pelletization has been increased, but pellet exports are only 1.25% of the pellet capacity created in India. So we are encouraging, but you have to build capacities. That's where the investments have to come in new technologies. Once you have more capacities, you'll export. And frankly speaking, I do not agree with your observation on Japan. Japan has been India's biggest developmental partner since India's independence, and even today, they continue to be. And what we export to Japan is not even 1% of what Japan consumes in its steel production. You must know the facts. Mining is done in poor areas, and it employs hundreds of millions of poor people. What India exports, India has allowed to be exports, are only the iron ore finds in the past, because the domestic industry could only consume lumps. That's why we brought in the technologies and encouraged pelletization. So we are moving in the right direction. But at the same time, we have to bear in mind that when it comes to iron ore, coal, yes, this country has enough coal, third largest reserves to be precise. There are issues which should not have come up, that where we could not mine our own iron ore. I'm not going to go into details. The facts are in public domain, where the judiciary had to intervene and exports stopped. What we could export, we end up importing. So is it anybody's case that India should be importing iron ore? India should be importing coal? These were avoidable imports, which have actually burdened our current account deficit.
Mr. Sharma, since we have Mr. Agarwal as a captive here, I think I will slip in a question. There are corporate lobbies in India, which is well known. You acquired a company called Kane India. How difficult was it? Because it took you 18 months of relentlessly pursuing your quarry, and only then were you able to finally acquire it. How difficult was it? And what were the impediments along the way?
No, I always said if you work in India, you have to have patience. So patience is but it happened. It was an acquisition of 1,15,000 crore worth of, and I must say this is the amazing, where we have not cashed what has happened. Anywhere else in the world, they should have given enough that to reinvest in India. I think the entire money was transferred. It has gone to all the shareholder. It is an amazing thing has happened. If we should have let people, the whole world know. World only knows one thing, that we delayed, but the world does not know the magnitude of the transaction has taken place, and magnitude of money the shareholder who has invested in the past and got back the money. As far as we are going through the transition period. I have said probably we have grown in India in the public sector environment. We have seen only public sector around us. Today is the high time where these public sector, we have maybe having 300 company. When the public sector are listed and the shareholders are there, why don't we hand over these company? ONGC will be Exxon. SAIL will be under Vale. Why don't we hand over 51% to the market and let it be market driven? Let the shareholder decide who should be the board, who should be the CEO. The best CEO will come on the place. He will come for the 10 years, 5 years. He'll make the business plan. He will ask for the money and the funding from the bank and the shareholder, make this company 10 times bigger and make it world class. We have that fabric. And Kane India was one of the example, was partner with the ONGC. And this transaction, I'm very pleased that this transaction has taken place. We have really worked. We have increased it, double the production. It has a huge potential. I've been talking to the government, and we are saying that company like Kane India, you need 20 companies in India. You need at least 20 companies in India. I encourage everybody to look at the oil sector. Please go to Calgary. Please go to Texas and see the magnitude of the entrepreneur and the companies which are related to the oil and the hydrocarbon. are there. The companies with the 100 crores to billions of dollars, maybe 3,000 companies, 2,000 companies building their business there. So hydrocarbon, to reply your question, it was a difficult task, but we have persuaded, the Kane India has persuaded, the Prime Minister of Britain has persuaded, and this has happened. But at the same time, this oil sector, hydrocarbon sector, I encourage, this is a very important sector for us. Energy security is very important for us. Coal, oil, these two sectors we have abundant in India. Every report says we have abundant in India. What is require a reform?
My name is Bobby Seigel, and my question is to the Minister. What can be done? We see that every successful Indian businessman, as soon as he gets successful in India, his first aspiration is to go and set up base overseas. What do you think the government can do to retain these successful entrepreneurs in India?
I think the world must know that if other countries and continents have produced big entrepreneurs, that India also has many of its own sons and daughters who can engage with the rest of the world with a level of confidence which the world must know, as has been demonstrated. If you live in a globalized world, it's important then to ensure that you seek investment in your economy, but also invest elsewhere. For example, in Africa, the kind of investments which we have made, or in South America, the Indian entities, both public sector and private sector, that has led to an increase, manifold increase when it comes to trade and economic partnership. So that must continue. I am not one who will say that Indian entrepreneur, Indian industry should not invest in other countries, because you do value addition, job creation. And also, it is important that we remain a global player. If this country has a vision and rightful claim to be a leader in the Committee of Nations, where there's redefining of the orders taking place, this century, I have no doubt in my mind, belongs to Asia and to Africa, and India will be an important pole in that. Therefore, our engagement must be global. We cannot be a global leader by remaining local.
Unfortunately, we're completely out of time. We'd like to thank both gentlemen for coming here and sharing their views with us. Thank you so much, Mr. Sharma, Mr. Agarwal.
A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Agarwal, Mr. Sharma, I'd request you to please stay on stage as I call upon Mr. Deepak Puri, Chairman and Managing Director, Mozabair India Limited, to come on stage and present you with a token of our appreciation. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together. Mr. Deepak Puri, Chairman, Managing Director, Mozabair. Can you get a quick photo opportunity, and then we'll just... Sir, a quick photo opportunity there. Thank you, sir.